Next.
Verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, and rebuke in all that thou settest thine hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me.
So we forsook God when we broke all his commandments. So these are the curses that will come upon us because of the wickedness of thy doings. Talking about the Israelites. Next.
Cursing, vexation, and rebuke. We have high cost of living and corruption, unemployment, and police brutality in Kenya.
Next.
Verse 21. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from off the land, whither thou goest to possess it.
Disease. Next.
Children, what is a cholera kills 13 in Kenya. 28 million. These are the diseases that have struck Kenya. HIV prevalence in Kenya. This is because we're breaking the law, thou shalt not commit adultery. This is why. Kenya's cancer burden. Top 10 female cancer cases. Top 10 male cancer cases. Next. So those are the pestilences. Go ahead, D.
Verse 22. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, and with a fever, and with inflammation, and with extreme burning, and with a sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish.
So God's curses will pursue us until we be destroyed, until thou perish. Next. Read.
And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron.
Next. This is what it means. When it talks about your heaven would be iron, and your around your ankles would be iron and brass. The brass they had here on the slave shackles. Okay, that's what the British did. This is what the British did to the sons and daughters in Kenya that was shipped off to other European countries. Next. These bells are brass. These are iron. So your heaven would be brass, your earth would be iron. Your people in Kenya who make their Hajj, they go to Saudi Arabia, Mecca in Saudi Arabia, to kiss the black stone. So that's wood and stone. That.
Verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt.
The word Egypt means bondage. The word Egypt is Greek. It means bondage, slavery.
Again with ships.
How did your sons and daughters get from Kenya to America? How did your sons and daughters get from Kenya to the United Kingdom? How did your sons and daughters get from Kenya to Saudi Arabia? With ships. Okay?
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there,
once you get off those ships, and there,
you shall be sold unto your enemies.
Your sons and daughters were sold to the British, the Americans, the English, the Dutch, the Spanish. You were sold to Saudi Arabia as well. Okay?
For bondmen,
that means slave men,
and bondwomen,
slave women,
and no man shall buy you.
This word buy here means save or redeem. No man shall redeem you.
Isaiah 4 verse 1. And in that day.
Stop! What is the day in conjunction to what Christ said, Josiah?
It's coming.
I want the words. Give me the words he used. Don't change the words. Zekiah. In the regeneration. In the regeneration. In the regeneration. When the Son of Man shall sit upon. How did it say? On his throne of glory. That's what Isaiah is prophesied about right here. Read again. The brother that says that day is this day. Is the branch of the Lord beautiful today? No. I see crackheads. I see child molesters. I see pedophiles. Okay, I see rapists. I see hatred. I see slander amongst our people.
That's what this is. So in the case of what we're speaking here, impulses that's going through brothers' minds to sleep around with all kind of different women and trying to use the Bible to justify it. That's him just not being disciplined at all.
Everybody sees that Isaiah chapter 4 is not on this side.
Who's saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife.
And whore. A woman that sleeps with
different men. And the doctor's talking about men that's whoremongers. Sleeping with different women. Read that from top again.
You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
There's no need for any sort of jealousy or to feel like you're in competition.
So we're just used to seeing girls just walk around naked all the time. So it's just the usual, yeah.
Just be open to the possibility, and you know what I mean, and keep pushing.
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Racha HaKwadash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to you brethren, you other elders and brethren. Shalom to you sincere sisters, and shalom to the elect. So this may be a lot to go into, but I'm going to try to hit points to make the lesson a whole lot shorter. It's up to you to do your research, but at the end of the day, it's our job to teach you, and for who don't know, and to bring out things that may not be known. So this man, Bishop Nathaniel, seems to be a colonizer himself, and these Kenyans do not want him to bring that Western Christianity to them. Which interesting, I did some research or just going through a few things, and I looked this up, and I asked what kind of Christianity did they practice in polygamy. They said a good portion of the Christian denominations, Kenyan Christians, still practice polygamy, and that's well known over there. So what do you think will happen? And it makes sense why they were so mad at this guy, right? Not just that part of Christianity, but there's other various forms, of this modern Christianity that Bishop Nathaniel is teaching. So we're going to go into that in a second. I did go into some commentary, Isaiah 4:1, how we're going to prove that doesn't make any sense, right? The issues he's talking about with the slavery, and what he's not telling you is before the transatlantic slave trade, you had other so-called slave trades, the Barbary, the Indian Ocean slave trade. So you had various other, and even if there was amongst a particular region, they would still call it a slave trade. Now, what happened to us in Deuteronomy 28 had nothing to do strictly with the Barbary or Indian Ocean slave trade, but it did have a part to do with it because they were all involved in it. Remember, we was in slavery before the slave trade. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the Muslims and various other traders, and they went into East Africa, right? So some of our people there, but guess what? Sudan too. So we know Kenya is there, and then we know Sudan is there. So they got to go to Sudan, where the booty scratchers are at, right? And then you also had European trades. So we in Russia, you know what I'm saying? We in Iran, we in Iraq. So it seems that Nate is trying to twist the whole doctrine, and now he's trying to wake up East Africans. If there's an elect amongst them, then you would let the internet do that. Why would you go into the places the majority of Hamites? See, they don't want you there. But I just wanted to bring that out. So he says, this is what Nate teaches. Isaiah 4:1 is not going to happen, right, until the upcoming kingdom. We're going to show you that's BS right off the top. They don't look up anything, so we're going to show you that. He also teaches that as long as you're in captivity and you sleep with different women and you have different wives, then you consider whoremongering. See, it makes sense why this guy really wants this doctrine. So he can sit up on the throne as King Nathaniel or Bishop Nathaniel or General and dictate the marriages. It's going to be hard to do that if a man have more than one wife. You see what I'm saying? And he won't let them, Apostle Paul said, let them learn at home. You know, what is going on here? He's going to quote the bishop being blameless, but he don't listen to what the bishop said, what Paul says. Anyway, Exodus 1 and 8. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are mightier than we. Come on and let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. Now, mind you, they're in captivity, right? Okay? And I believe this. Let me go here. Let me go back up here. Yeah, I believe that's Ramses II, I believe. I don't remember. I think right around there. And it says, come on and let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies, and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with burdens. And they built for Pharaoh's treasure cities in Pithom, and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. How do you multiply? You just damn sure don't multiply with one goddamn woman. Now, we see this as a captivity, and they're still multiplying. But Bishop Nathaniel and the HODC, they teach you only supposed to have one wife because you're in captivity. And that's nowhere in the Bible. Nowhere. But again, you want to say occultic? That's what you call occultic. Anyway, let's go to 2 Corinthians 11:4, and then I'll get to the rest of the lesson. For if any one of them come and preach of another Messiah, whom we have not preached, or if anyone receive a spirit that we have not received, or another gospel that we have not accepted, you might well bear with him. So these Christians over there are reading this, and they're saying this Christian purple ministry is trying to bring us a new form of religion. Because once you convert to IUIC, right, you have to follow their doctrine, and rightfully so if you follow their doctrine and convert. But their doctrine teach you must still call on Jesus the Christ, right? So they're bringing oppression on top of oppression. You must call on Jesus the Christ, and you must put away your wives. So when he goes there and colonize, and they get wives, and say them Christians in the church a man might have 4 wives. Well, now he's got to get rid of 3 of them? According to Nate, he'll tell you if you're an unbeliever, after a year, you got to get rid of your wife or husband. How can anybody join a sick occultic practice like that? We know the Lord sets it up and allow it to happen, but just saying. You're doing something totally normal. A Christian church don't even teach that. These guys might just be worse off than a Christian church. There's no way you'll go into any church organization and they'll tell you if your wife do not believe, you must cut them off. And this is what will happen in Kenya. Now the scripture says in Deuteronomy 28 that he quoted that thy daughter shall be given to another people, their children given to another people, your women shall lay with other men, and so forth and so on. But this is what these guys are doing. They're literally telling you if your wife doesn't follow you after a year, you must get rid of it. This is what they're pushing in Kenya. This is crazy. Unbelievable. So anyway, let's go to the multiple wives thing, right? Well, let me go to finish Isaiah 4:1 real quick. We all know it. In that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man, right? Let me see. Yeah. And in that day, 7 women shall take hold of one man. We will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by thy name to take away our reproach. We know in Hebrews 8, all Israel shall be saved, right? We also know in Hebrews 8, which they don't believe, they believe we're in a new covenant. This is how they could push these doctrines, that the Lord will write his laws in our hearts, in our mind, in our spirit. So the Lord, some shall wake to everlasting light and contempt, right? So at that, when the Lord converts us, then the reproach will be taken away. So what reproach? If this is talking about the kingdom of heaven, what reproach? Let's go to some Bible commentary. And in that day, 7 women. The character division wrongly separates the verse from the foregoing. It is the climax of chastisement of the daughters of Zion. Basically, the chastisement of daughters of Zion. I'm just going through a couple of these. Some of them I haven't even read, which he has hitherto been speaking, continue to speak in that calamitous time. What is he? Come on, man. We know the calamitous time. Why would he say, why would these women say, let me be called by your name to take away our reproach? If we're already in the kingdom of heaven, it's already going to be established. It says here, when the troubles should come upon the land. Wait a minute. This man is saying that this is only going to happen after we get into the kingdom. Then the 7 women shall take hold of one man. This sneaky demon, right? He's in league in bed with the elites. They set this guy up. And how convenient that they will use our own people to go colonize, right? And bring more of a wicked doctrine to even heathens and other people. And remind you, let's go back to Deuteronomy. Let me go here. This is something I left out. And among these nations thou shalt find no ease, neither shall thy sole of thy foot rest, but the Lord shall give thee a trembling heart and a failing of eyes and a sorrow of mind. Because, yes, some of our people in Kenya, yes, the slave trade went back and forth and the mixing and so forth and so on. But the majority of Israelites is in Kenya? Come on, man. Come on. So, yeah, you see these horrific events, but that happens to heathens too. There's heathens that are impoverished. What is he talking about? Anyway, let's go back. I mean, that's enough on that. I mean, I just wanted to get to the point on the commentaries. Here, the Keelan Dilchitz biblical commentary of the Old Testament, it says, when war shall unsparingly have swept away the men of Zion, and a most unnatural effect will ensure, namely that the woman will go search for husbands. This is in all the commentaries, and every commentary says it. But the Bishop Nathaniel, who claims we need to stay in the English, the reason why he wants to stay in the English, because of the English language, you can make interpretation of words of your own, and you can create your own doctrine. See, he understands that men can have more than one wife. We don't push it, right? Okay, you just can't make it a doctrine and say no. I get it also, and he's talking about when you're oppressed, you shouldn't have more than one wife because you can't take care of them. But we clearly see here, when times get rough, these 7 women, which is just a number, can be more, maybe less, I don't know. They will, remember the scripture Ecclesiastes say 2 are better than 1? Well, 8 is better than 1. 10 is better than 1. And see, these guys, they look at it as some form of lust, of laying up, and you just want to lust and have sexual desires with women. See, in the ancient times, it wasn't like that. It was more so for the practice of bringing heirs, bringing your lineage, bringing your children. But in Western culture has been so corrupted, they use sex, as some form of recreational tool. And that's what it's become. So let's go back. Okay? Let's go to 2 Chronicles 11 and 21. And this man knows this. And Rehoboam loved Maachah, the daughter of Absalom, above all his wives and concubines. For he took 8 wives, 80 concubines, and begot 20 and 8 sons and 80 daughters. So now, the third part of the lesson, I'm just trying to hit all the parts, where it says the bishop must be blameless, the husband of one wife. Right? This was, to make it short, I'm going to read a little bit of commentary, but just to shorten it up, when it said he must be blameless, the husband of one wife, that was actually talking about the wives who were actually sleeping around. We're going to get a little bit of that too. If he married a woman that already had 7 husbands, how could that be his wife? And then he would look like a fool as the head of the church Because the men in there be like, yeah, we done already had her. But anyway, bishop must be blameless, the husband of one wife. It says, this neither means that a bishop must be married, nor that he may not marry a second wife, which is just as lawful for him to do as to marry a first, and may even more in some cases. But it is a bounded duty, but whereas polygamy and divorce upon the slight occasions were both common amongst the Jews and the heathens. You see? And this is why he said he must be blameless, the husband of one wife. It says exactly what it says. He can't be sitting up there marrying a bunch of women, because these women in the church were already sleeping around. So by the time he got to a woman, she would have already had husbands. And then when I read the commentaries, they even quoted what Yahushua said in was it John the 4th chapter, when he told the woman at the well, you had 5 husbands. All right, this is another commentary. Paul alludes to the incidents no longer looked upon as shameful in Rome. He, even in his indignation at the laxity of the morals of his day, cites cases of women who reckoned their years rather by their husbands than by the councils. That's exactly what's happening today. By the time by the time you go to get married and both of you settle down and the Queen of Heaven says she can do it, you can do it, right? Technically, if she had 50 men, well, guess what? She had 50 husbands by the time you get married. And it doesn't change, because even after you walk down the aisle and you put the rings on the finger, as the Christians say, you're covered by the blood of Jesus, all is forgotten. At the end of the day, yes, you can repent, but at the end of the day, it doesn't negate the fact that you didn't had 50 husbands. So by the time a woman get with you and y'all go down the aisle and get married, and the father wants to give him away and give the daughter away, and she's been gave herself away 50 times, at the end of the day, she has 50 husbands. She's actually in polygamy. And a woman is not supposed to be polygamous. So she's an adultery. She's an adulteress. And this is why the book of Amos says, thy wives shall be harlots in the streets. That's exactly why it says that. So anyway, marital rights of the woman who had arrived to her 10th husband, right? 10th husband. So now this is what Paul was talking about. Now this same woman that might have had 10 husbands, remember, women are hypergamous. So she wants to get to the top. And then they're in lines waiting to get to the bishop. And this is what Paul was saying, hell no, you can't marry. That's why you must just have one wife. The hell with that. You start sleeping around with these women. It was nothing wrong with them having more than one wife. But remember when he said in 1 Corinthians 7, I speak this, not the Lord, meaning not going into the law. He had to make revisions in the church because of the adulteries and the scandals. Right? It says, Juvenal speaks of one who in 5 years had 8 husbands among the Jews. We know polygamy was then prevalent. Right? So Paul, fully conscious of the law and debased moral tone which pervaded the society of the empire, in these few words condemned an illicit relationship between the sexes. Right. Why was it illicit? Because you had 7 women. You had one wife who had 8 husbands who would go and marry a bishop. And Paul was not having that. And any of us in the truth wouldn't have that. In fact, we wouldn't have any of that adultery going on in the church. But we see this happen in the IUIC. You see what I'm saying? And it clearly says a bishop must be blameless, the husband of one wife. You know what I'm saying? That's how he would be made blameless. But technically, all of them that was in that church shouldn't have been, you had to be careful of messing with a wife because she done had 5 husbands. Remember, we lost our heritage. We was following Rome practices. We was homos. We was doing all kinds of crazy stuff, man. It says here, it says, many of them contented themselves with one wife and with one husband at a time, because thereby they had showed themselves temperate, the use of sensual pleasures through the immoral love in which Asiatic nations universally practice polygamy. It says, in the manner according, this is another one, a person who divorced each other unjustly were guilty of adultery when they married themselves to others. It's because of the adultery. And that's why Yahushua said, what did he say? Except before adultery you divorce. Okay? It says also because such really had more wives than husbands. More wives than husbands. Right? Then one at a time, the case of the woman in Samaria. There we go, John 4. The apostle to restrain these licentious practices. And this is why he said they had temperance. Because when you're in a church of adultery, you don't want to be caught messing with a woman who had 50 husbands. Let me just get to the point. It says, which were common amongst the Greeks and the Romans, as well as amongst the Jews, ordered that no widow should be chosen instituted younger women, right? But such had been the wife of one husband only at a time. And this is where we get the husband of one wife. This is why it says this. But such as had been the wife of one husband only at a time. That's what that was going into. There's so much more. Many converts of Christianity will have more wives than one, more than one wife. They were nowhere commanded to put away all but one. But it was not seemingly that a man in such a position as a Christian minister who ought to respect to the ensamples of the flock, it says, see further. It's a whole lot more than that. I'm not going to read more on that. But so even if a bishop, as I was reading, even if a bishop had 3 wives, he wasn't commanded to put them away. So again, if this group goes to Kenya and they colonize it with their white Christianity, because that's pretty much what they're pushing. The IUIC is a Christian church pushing Hebrew Israelism, as they say. So if they go into the church and the man have 5 wives, they're going to tell them to put them away. That's a guaranteed fact, because they tell you to put away one wife that don't believe after a year. That's a fact. That's all I have on that. Shalom.